Don't wait. Don't wait around. Don't wait around for somebody to come up to you at the party. Don't wait around for someone to ask you out on a date. Don't wait around to go talk to a stranger. I understand that if you're listening to my show that you probably struggle with social anxiety. So you're thinking, yeah, well, duh, I wish I didn't have to wait. But my anxiety, it doesn't allow me. It doesn't allow me to just cut through and just do it. But what you got to remember about anxiety is a little trickster. Anxiety plays games with you. And even our attempts to alleviate our anxiety plays games on us. And in fact, I think it plays worse games than the anxiety itself because what we tend to do when we feel anxious in a situation is we try to convince ourselves, and we really believe this, that if we think about a situation long enough or hard enough, or we find a simpler way to do something, that will actually alleviate the anxiety. So we have all these catastrophic thoughts about why we shouldn't go ask that person out, why we shouldn't go talk to this person, why we can't go and just approach someone. We have all these catastrophic thoughts of all these bad things that are going to happen. And then to try to mitigate all that, what does our brain do? It tries to come up with all the things that you could do to try to make it better. You try to think to yourself, all right, well, here's what I'll say. If a conversation goes left, here's what I'll say. And I've talked about this before about the pre-writing conversations and how this does not help. This does not help. It gets you absolutely nowhere. And this is really a bigger theme in life, I think, generally. I don't think I've ever met anyone who is fulfilled, who lives a passive life. And the problem is that as much as you're worried about the rumination you might experience if you have a bad social interaction, what about the rumination you experience for not taking action? It's not like that doesn't exist, right? If you go to a party or you meet somebody and you're really attracted to them and then you don't talk to them, it's not like you go home and feel better. Yeah, maybe you feel a little relieved because you didn't get quote unquote rejected, but you feel terrible about yourself. You don't feel good about yourself. And I'm not saying this to beat you up. I'm saying this, you got to look inward and realize, hey, maybe there's something that could motivate me because the things that I'm doing don't actually make me feel better. They only make me feel better for about a split second. And the reality with any kind of social situation, any kind of talking to anybody, the worst part is before. I mean, 9 times out of 10, what is the worst part about a social situation? It's beforehand. It's all the lead up. It's all the anxiety and the build up. Once you're actually in the moment, well, you're in it. Once you're in it, you're in it. And yeah, you're still going to feel the fear, but you're not going to feel the dread and the anxiety. And it won't last that long. I mean, depending on if the conversation goes well, that's great. It'll last. It won't, it won't last at all because you'll have a great conversation. And if the conversation goes really bad, what are you going to be anxious for 10 seconds? 10 seconds. And then you go and you leave the situation if it's really uncomfortable. And I understand that there's reasons why we do this, right? We have these ideas about ourselves. We think that we're burdening people. We think that we're annoying. We think that we're boring. Maybe we think people don't want to be bothered with us. But think of it this way. If you've spent most of your life, and if you're someone who's dealt with social anxiety, I'm going to assume this is how you've spent most of your life. If you've spent most of your life avoiding social situations, well, you haven't really given yourself a chance, right? But what's interesting about that is, despite the fact that we don't really give ourselves a chance to make friends, to date, to do all these things, we create this narrative in our mind that we are unlikable, that we are a loser, that nobody wants to be around us, because we only look at the output. We only look at the fact that we don't have many friends, we don't have many dates. But no one has rejected you. How has anyone rejected you if you haven't put yourself out there? This is like a great musician who never plays music. Of course, people don't know who you are. Of course, you don't have many friends. Of course, you don't have many dates because nobody knows who you are. So this isn't a problem of you being so inherently flawed and unlikable. It's simply a problem of you haven't put yourself out there and met enough people to actually make an accurate assessment. I know what you're going to say. You might say, well, no, I experienced a lot of rejection when I was younger. A lot of rejection when I was younger. I don't doubt you. I believe that. That's very possible that you dealt with a lot of rejection, particularly when you were younger. But let's think about this for a minute. We're talking about rejection from a time in our life where if you were younger, I'm assuming you're talking about adolescence, maybe high school, maybe even college, maybe even younger than that, maybe elementary school. Do you think that that's who you are now? Do you still think you're stuck in that same part of life? Do you still do you think that you had the same amount of skills and resilience and support that you did then? You have to keep in mind that when you were younger, you are very reliant on the approval of others. This is kind of how we develop. That is how we develop. That stage, that teenage year, what's most important to us is that we are approved of, that we are liked. So if we're not liked then, we very often carry around a feeling that we are forever unlikable. But we are talking about very often a small window in time. That we have a small window in time where things don't go well. And that can be very devastating. I'm not trying to dismiss that. I know what that's like because I've been there. But we have the small window of time where things don't go well because we're awkward and we're weird and we're teenagers and we don't know what the hell we're doing. And people don't like us and we don't know how to fit in. And we're trying all these different things. We're trying to act one way to fit in with one group. Then we try to act another way to fit in another group. We don't know who the hell we are. Right? It's the same thing with picking your career, right? It's like when they ask you to pick your career when you're like 12 years old. Well, how the hell are you supposed to do that? Imagine if you had to pick your career at 12 years old, and no matter what changed in your life, you just had to stick with that. So if you said you wanted to be a firefighter when you were 12 years old, even if things changed by the time you were 20, nope, sorry, you said you were going to be a firefighter when you're 12, you're locked in. That's essentially what you're doing. You're saying, well, I was rejected when I was younger, so I just must be so rejectable. Also, keep in mind that who were you rejected by? Other children, other teenagers who were just as insecure as you are, who are rejecting you for reasons you probably don't even understand, who are rejecting you for reasons that oftentimes in the teenage years, people get rejected just based off association. Nobody actually gets to know each other, right? That we group each other up. This is what cliques are, right? Everybody gets in these little cliques and you get rejected based on who you're associated with. And because teenagers are insecure, even if they might like you, they're not going to associate with you because you didn't fit into their group. And that's going to look bad on them if they start talking to you. There's all these weird, insecure reasons why children and teenagers reject people. But we have taken this as this is a stamp forever. This is our stamp forever. We are forever doomed to be a loser. We're forever doomed to be unlikable. But you haven't given yourself a chance in how many years? How many years have gone by where you've just kind of sat back, let things happen? I'll date when someone asks me out. I'll make friends when someone says hello to me at a party. I think this is general life advice. Being passive generally is never a good idea. There are times where it's a good idea, but generally, if you want to get the most out of life, you have to be active. I understand it's scary. I'm not saying that it's not scary, right? You're supposed to be afraid. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. So that's the other thing. Sometimes we beat ourselves up because of the fear itself. We feel like there's something wrong with us because we feel afraid because it seems like everyone else has this figured out and everybody else is so comfortable socially. And some people are, some people aren't. Who really knows how comfortable people really are? But maybe you feel behind, so you feel like, well, there's just more proof. I'm behind. What's the point? What's the point? Who cares if you're behind? I mean, honestly, who cares if you're behind? Does it matter? Does that mean you can't catch up? Does that mean you can't improve your life? You see, we spend so much time trying to create a new narrative by thinking about it. We want to feel better about ourselves. So we think about ourselves a lot. We think. But when we think about ourselves, what actually happens is, generally speaking, when you think about yourself, you tend to think negatively. As I mentioned in the past, people who are in a good state of mind don't really think about themselves. People who are in a negative state of mind, they think about themselves a lot. Okay, so the problem is that you think about yourself a lot, and then you go down the rabbit hole, and then you just start thinking about all the negative stuff. And then you use that negative stuff that you've found as proof of how flawed you are. And then you say, see, this is why I shouldn't even bother. People aren't going to like me. If I go out, I have all this ample evidence of all these times that I've been rejected. So I'm not even going to bother. I am not even going to bother. And then you create this story. You create this story that you're just unlikable, even though you haven't tested the waters in forever. And I understand it's scary. And the problem is that if you do try to go out and you try to socialize, and it's been a while since you've done it, the reality is you're probably going to be a little rusty. Sure, you're probably not going to be great at it. But you have to be careful, because then if you actually go out and socialize and it doesn't go well, which of course it's not going to go well because you haven't socialized in years, then you're going to go home and do what? You're going to beat yourself up. And then you're going to go, see, that's why I don't socialize. Went poorly again. Same old me. Socializing is a skill to some degree, right? Like, you have to do it. You have to do it enough. You have to get comfortable with it. And if you haven't done it in so long, then of course you're going to be uncomfortable. And the first few times are going to be hard. And you're going to get in your head before every social situation, and you're going to catastrophize that this is going to be a terrible situation, and then you're going to end up ruminating later and beating yourself up. But maybe instead what we can do is we take a pause. Maybe all the thinking, all the planning, all the plotting, all the working around the anxiety, trying to find an easier way, right? As I mentioned before, going to a party and waiting and saying to yourself, I'll wait till I feel more calm before I talk to someone. I'll wait till there's an opening before I walk up to people. I'll wait. And what does that do? It does nothing but breed more anxiety. Gives you more time to think. Gives more time for that rumination to grow and grow and grow. How about instead we cut it off at the source? How about instead of getting in our head and thinking that it's even worthwhile getting in our head? I talked about this before. If you believe that thinking about problems is helpful, you're going to get stuck in your head more often. So let's consider the possibility that thinking about all this is not actually helpful, and that actually all we need to do is take action. And every time you get that dread and those worries and those thoughts, and you're thinking about all the ways it could go, what if you said to yourself, I'm not playing this game today. I'm not going in there. I'm not going to try to solve any problems. This is time to act. The very fact that I'm in my head, I'm at a party and I'm in my head, should I go talk to that person? Should I go talk to that person? If you're asking yourself if you should go talk to that person, the answer is yes. Then you might say, well, what should I say? What should I say? What if it's awkward? What if it's weird? Here's what you say to yourself. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be weird. I have not done this in a long time. This is not a reflection of me. This is just a reality. I have not done this in a long time. It's probably going to feel weird. And even if it's not, the reality is it's actually not going to be objectively awkward. It's not going to be objectively awkward. You're just going to feel awkward. And I've talked about this in past podcasts, that we assume that because we feel something, that means it is true about us. But feeling awkward is just a feeling. It will pass. So you say to yourself, it's going to feel awkward. I'm going to go over and I'm going to talk to that person. It's going to feel awkward. And you're going to say, what do I say? Let's make it simple. Have one or two lines. You go up and you say, hi, I'm so-and-so. What's your name? Oh, how do you know so-and-so? And then you're going to say, but then what? Then what? What? Let the other person do a little bit of work. You made the effort to go over across this room and talk to this person. Let them put in a little effort. I mean, the reality is, if you're in a social situation that is understood as a social situation, right? So like, I'm not talking about going up to someone at a park who's reading a book. I'm talking about you're at a party, you're at a bar, you're at some kind of social engagement. If someone is going to look down upon you for trying, for putting yourself out there and just introducing yourself, that is not a you problem, okay? That's the point. What's the point of people being there? That's the whole point, is for people to mingle and socialize. People will try. People will try with you if you try with them. And what's amazing about this too is, everybody's talking about how lonely they feel. And it's true. I mean, a lot of people are dealing with loneliness. But what we forget is that there's so many people that when you're out, that they are dying. They are dying for someone to come over and talk to them. They are so terrified themselves of someone coming over to talk to them. They don't want to do the work. They're afraid. You probably know this feeling, right? You want someone to come to you and take the pressure off. Be that person. What would it be like to be that person for another person? And here's another great thing about this, because this is going to help you get out of your head. Instead of thinking about yourself, let's think about the other person for a second. Like, you can offer this person some relief. This person maybe is sitting in the corner of the room by themselves or with one other person, and they're feeling uncomfortable. What would it be like to go over there and introduce yourself? And even if it's a little awkward, hey, at least you gave this person something to remember. At least you made this person feel welcome and accepted. And this is where, I've talked about before, the goal of socializing is to connect. You're just trying to connect, right? To go over and you see someone who seems a little lonely, go over and try to connect with them, make their day a little better. But a lot of times when we think about socializing, we think about being funny and witty and interesting. And we want to make the big joke and get the big laugh. And that takes away what is actually supposed to be just connecting with another person. And that's why we feel all this pressure. We feel like we have to go, when we introduce ourselves to someone, we have to tell this hilarious story. Hold on. Let's wait. Maybe we can get there one day. Maybe one day you can be the life of the party. But right now, maybe you can just say hello to somebody. So try this the next time, even if you're not at a party, the next time you're out and about, you're walking around the neighborhood and you see someone walking towards you. And all of a sudden you get in your head, and should I say something? Should I not? Would it be weird if I did? Cut it off. Hold on. This isn't helping. There's nothing about this at all that is anywhere near any truth. None of this actually matters. Okay. Do I want to improve my social skills? Yes. Is it wrong to say hello to somebody? No. Can I say hello to somebody? Can I just walk up to somebody and say, hey, hope you're having a good day, as you walk by them? Just start there. We don't have to be this funny, witty, interesting person just yet. Let us start small. Let's make it easy for ourselves. And let's build that gradually. And if a social situation doesn't go wrong and you go home and you beat yourself up, just remind yourself, hey, I'm new to this. I haven't done this in a long time because I've shut myself down for so many years. I didn't know how to do this. I haven't known how to do this. And eventually, you'll get comfortable doing the easy stuff. Saying hello will get easy. Introducing yourself will get easy. And then we can ramp it up. And then that stuff starts to get easy. You start slow. Don't get so big in your head right now. You got some work to do, and that's okay. You're a little bit behind, but it really won't take that much to catch you up. The important takeaway here is that the better thing to do than to think and to solve and to try to make things easier is to simply to take action. Cut it off at the head. The minute you start feeling uncomfortable, wake yourself up. Hey, I'm doing that thing. I'm ruminating. I'm catastrophizing. Time to act. Time to go say hello. Make it simple. I don't have to say anything funny or interesting. I just have to say hello today. Thanks again for tuning in. Let me know if there's any topics you want me to cover soon, and I'll see you soon.